So West Side Story is a brand new version of the musical of the same name. This time it's directed by Steven Spielberg. And if you don't know the plot of West Side Story at this point, how do you not know? There are these two gangs, the Jets and the Sharks. There's a member of the Jets named Tony and the sister of the leader of the Sharks, Maria, who meet up one day and they start falling in love with each other, and basically it causes conflict between the two gangs, and yeah, that's basically it. And it's a musical. So, this was a movie that, even though Steven Spielberg was heavily involved, he directed this movie, this was not a movie I was looking forward to. Like, I didn't see a reason to remake West Side Story. I'm not even the biggest fan of that movie. I just figured it was one of those movies that didn't. It just seemed like one of those movies that you could never remake. Like Wizard of Oz, Back to the Future, Jaws, something directed by Steven Spielberg. You can't just remake West Side Story. I just thought that for years. Like, why would you try to do something like that? And so I would still see it anyway because, it's Steven Spielberg. So why not? So I saw this, and honestly, it's actually pretty good. I'm actually surprised by how much I enjoyed it. There's a lot of things about this movie that I actually really do like, and admittedly a few things I don't, but we'll get to those later. But let's start with what I did like. Most of the performances in this movie are really good. Rachel Zegler as Maria, I thought she was really good. This is her first role, and I liked her throughout this entire movie. Ariana DeBose, who plays Anita, who plays like a parental figure to Maria, and I thought she was really good. David Alvarez as the leader of the Sharks, I thought he was really good, kind of like this overbearing, protective figure as well. Mike Faist, I believe that's how you pronounce his name. He's a member of the Jets, who's probably Tony's right-hand man. He was also really good. I really liked his character. Iris Menas, I don't know if I'm pronouncing their name right, but they were really good as well as a member of the Jets, but not really. And I kind of like the way they kind of turned that kind of like into modern times, and it actually still works. It's effective enough. Because, like, in the original movie, you had this girl kind of with the Jets, and now in this version, you have someone who's non binary in there, and it's actually really effective. And also, Rita Moreno, she steals the entire movie for me. I thought she was really good. She's kind of like the maternal figure to everyone else in this entire movie. They reinvent the Doc character from West Side Story to fit her, and it works. She was really good. I was really happy to see her again. She was phenomenal. Also, the choreography. The choreography in this movie is incredible. Just to see them doing this, and I'm like, that is incredible. I'm honestly surprised that, people are doing this. This is amazing. And the cinematography as well is absolutely gorgeous. There are sweeping shots. It looks grittier, looks darker than the original, and it actually kind of makes it feel a little more realistic, because I feel like with the original West Side Story, I feel like even though I said you couldn't remake that today, yeah, it's a little dated, especially when all these like supposed tough gangsters are doing like all these dance moves, and I kind of think, yeah, that's a little ridiculous, isn't it? I don't care. It's still ridiculous to me, and in a way, it feels a little more realistic. I feel like it's darker, it's grittier. The characters feel a little more realistic than they did in the original. And so I feel like because of that, it's really effective. Also, a lot of the musical numbers are admittedly better than the movie. Like, take America, for instance. In the original, it was on a rooftop. In this one, they're actually running through the streets, which I thought was really good. The musical number Cool, I thought that was really well done. Also, they moved that to Before the Fight, which I also thought was really good. The Maria musical number, I thought that was really good. That was beautifully shot. And also the one between Tony and Maria, I thought that was really good as well. Also, a lot of people have argued that it does feel preachy, and that, no one wants to see a preachy movie. No one wants to see a movie about these issues. People want an escape. I'm also thinking, didn't people see the original West Side Story? West Side Story is incredibly preachy. If anything, this movie is perfect for right now. It's perfect for right now, and I understand. I don't understand. It's just something people complain about. It's like, oh, it's preachy. It's like, well, did you not see the original one? It came out in the 60s. What did you expect? So it definitely works for like modern times, and it's like they updated it enough to the point where it's not like, it's not in modern times or anything, but they updated themes, they update the production values. Everything about it just works naturally. Well, not everything. Let's get into what I didn't like. First off, Ansel Elgort. Now, I'm not going to dive deep into the issues with Ansel Elgort right now, but I'll just say I feel like he's miscast as Tony. There are moments where it's a little bit ridiculous for me to me at least, where he's like trying to be this tough guy and also trying to sing. At least in the original, that was one of the few things I think the original does better than this. It's like, oh, I thought that guy was a little bit better than Ansel Elgort. And also a lot of his scenes with Rachel Zegler, the way that they're shot, it just kind of comes off as a little creepy, to be honest. Also, there's a few odd placement of songs. Like, for instance, I mentioned Cool has been moved to Before the Fight, which I thought was effective. But here, I Feel Pretty has been moved to After the Fight. And that, to me, just did not work. I guess, like, they were trying to think, oh, well, it's kind of like, it kind of provides a contrast to what Tony just did. It's not really a spoiler because this movie admittedly is just a copy of West Side Story, as I was afraid of. But, it just didn't work for me. I felt like it just slowed the movie down to a bit. It just, even though it slowed down the movie, and this movie's 2.5 hours long, I don't need this movie to be any slower. And also, as I mentioned, it's a bit too long. It's over 2.5 hours, and I wish they could have maybe tightened it up a little bit. At least there's no intermission. And also, I remember watching it all the way back in like high school and comparing it a lot to Romeo and Juliet. And while they're still there, the Romeo and Juliet comparisons weren't as annoying as they were in the original movie. I was just comparing it to the original West Side Story more than anything. At least the original movie, not the play, but just the original movie. So the comparisons to Romeo and Juliet weren't as bad, but maybe because I was more focused on like what did this movie do different than the original movie. So that was a bit distracting, and kind of at times the movie, I feel like sometimes when they do something from the original movie, it's not nearly as effective as it was in the original movie, but overall this movie is still really good. Well, mostly good. I'll give it my final rating in a moment, but overall, performances are really good for the most part. Choreography is unbelievable. The cinematography is unbelievable. The production values alone are incredible for this. The musical numbers are great, and definitely does feel realistic too. Even though the story can be a little ridiculous, it does take a realistic approach that's still believable, and the message works considering the times that we're kind of living in. And even though there are things I dislike, mainly Ansel Elgort, the placement of songs, it's a bit too long, and kind of the relationship between Tony and Maria at times, mainly because of the way it's shot, not the actual romance itself. I would still recommend this. I don't know if I would still recommend this for the most part, but if you're like a diehard fan of the original movie musical, maybe don't see it. But overall, I think it's still worth your time. I'll give West Side Story 3 out of 4 stars. See it? So, is there a movie that you wish would be remade? Probably a dumb question, or I probably asked that. Probably asked what your favorite musical was. But is there a movie you feel like that could be remade that normally wouldn't be considered for a remake? I don't know. That's a difficult question. Comment down below, subscribe to the channel. This is Pat, and stay safe.